Hello everybody and welcome to another top 5 board gaming video. Today's topic is all about games that you can't have. Well, more specifically, it's about games that I find to be really good but are very difficult to find. Now, whether this is because they're out of print or because they're so popular that they sell out really quickly or whatever it is, there's any number of reasons for it, but the fact is that these are some great games that I personally really enjoy that I think everybody should get a chance to try out at some point. That said, of course, as always, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. What are games that you think everybody should have or try but are hard to get your hands on? Let me know, because you know I love to hear it all. But that said, we're going to jump right in with my number 5. At number 5, I've got Too Many Bones. As its name implies, this game has way too many dice, but it's really amazing because this has one of the coolest RPG style progression systems that I have ever seen in any game. And the way it works is that you have this nice neoprene mat and you use specific dice to show that you're getting particular skills for your individual character. You've got a ton of replayability, scenario driven, all of this kind of great stuff. It's an absolutely incredible game and I have a ton of fun with it. It took me forever to track down a copy though, because it was primarily a Kickstarter and I don't think it ever went to retail, which is really unfortunate because I think it deserves it and everybody should get a chance to at least try this very unique system that the game itself uses. Too Many Bones, my number 5. At number 4, I've got GKR, also known as Giant Killer Robots. This is a game that is essentially just really popular whenever it comes out, and one of the relatively rare mech-style games where you actually have scales that look and make sense in terms of the size of the robots compared to the sizes of the buildings. You're able to upgrade and get new stuff for your mech and all of this kind of thing, and it's just a very well done, really cool Battletech style mech game. The thing is that, again, it wasn't big enough to really come out in a huge way. I believe this was another Kickstarter and it has gone to retail, but every time it's gone to retail, first off, it's pretty expensive, and second off, it sells out really quickly, so it's very difficult to get your hands on. I was lucky to be able to get a copy from a store. Actually, I didn't get this secondhand, but either way, it's a great game. It's a ton of fun, but lower on the list just because I know it's not for everybody. Giant Killer Robots, my number 4. At number 3, I've got War of the Ring, obviously based off of The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien, and it's amazing. The thing is that right now Fantasy Flight owns all of the rights to publish any Lord of the Rings stuff, and this game is not from Fantasy Flight, so it's really tough to get your hands on, and they very rarely reprint it. So more often than not, you'll end up with people who buy up all the copies and then scalp them for huge markups, and it's very frustrating. But the thing is, it's a tremendously good game that mixes a lot of different mechanics where you've got the Mordor and Isengard, and then you've got Gondor and Rohan all moving together and going against each other in battle, and then at the same time you have the Fellowship trying to move through with the individual hobbits, Sam and Frodo, trying to sneak their way past everybody in order to get to Mount Doom. Lots of great mechanics, great battle mechanics, hidden movement, all sorts of other stuff. It's a wonderful game. It's wonderfully well made, and it's a travesty that it's not in stock more often than it should be. War of the Ring, my number 3. At number 2, I've got Android Netrunner. This is a really weird one because the fact is that you can actually get a ton of Android Netrunner stuff from Fantasy Flight. They are still making a lot of expansions for it, but you cannot get this, the core base game. My understanding is that there's a rights dispute or some kind of intellectual property dispute or something somewhere somehow. I don't know exactly what it is, but the point is that Fantasy Flight is no longer allowed to produce the core game for Android Netrunner, which means that you can't play it. You can get all the expansions that you want, but if you don't have the base game, then you're not able to use any of the expansions anyway, so it doesn't matter. And it sucks because this is probably the best and most well-known living card game out there. I absolutely adore the theme because I'm a huge Cyberpunk fan. Not the Cyberpunk 2077, but that's a whole other story. But regardless, it's a wonderfully well-done game. It really introduced the concept of a living card game over a collectible card game but you cannot find it except for secondhand, and it's really expensive to try and get. Android Netrunner, the core, is my number 2. At number 1, I've got Stone Age. Oddly enough, the only game on the list of great games that people should have but can't get. And the fact is that this is a quintessential example of a great worker placement that works wonderfully well as an introduction to a particular mechanic, in this case, worker placement. Worker placement games can range from being insanely simple and just not even worker placement or barely worker placement to exceedingly ridiculously complex where you've got 18 different workers depending on how many expansions to viticulture you have. But Stone Age gives just the right amount of introduction to the mechanic, just the right amount of strategy, just the right ability for the players to focus on any one specific or a couple of very specific things to get points and really see how you can leverage these different paths in order to eventually win the game. It is great for new players. It's a wonderful game overall. It introduces worker placement perfectly, but you can never, ever, ever find it, and it sucks. And the thing is that I know that they're trying to do reprints of it. They've done a couple of reprints on it, but just like all of the other ones, they sell out like that, and it's really frustrating. So Stone Age is my number 1. Well, everybody, that's it for me. I hope that you enjoyed this video on my top 5 games that I really think people should have, but are really difficult to get for one reason or another. Whether it's because they're Kickstarters that don't go to retail or things that sell out immediately when they get reprinted. There's all sorts of different issues, and it can range from a big game that's difficult to produce and ends up being expensive, or just a simple game that is no longer allowed to be made. All sorts of different things. There's lots and lots of different reasons to be on this list, and of course, I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are on it. Let me know in the comments below what your personal thoughts are, what your personal picks for this category are, because I would love to hear them. This is one of the things where I would have put something like Dune on it if we hadn't had the reprint relatively recently. Thank you, new Dune movie. That is probably going to be terrible, but it gave us the board game, so I don't care. So stuff like that. I would love to hear it all because you guys know I love hearing everything from you. And of course, as always, if you haven't done so already, please take a look at my various social media pages where you can interact with myself and my channel in a whole bunch of really fun ways. And remember, we are still in a pandemic. The Delta variant of COVID-19 is spreading like wildfire through the US and throughout the entire world. Please stay safe, stay healthy, be careful. You guys are all awesome, and I hope that you're okay. Stay well, be well, and thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.